Well, great afternoon, great evening, depending on where you dialed in from around the country. Welcome to the International Weekly Vitamin Call. I am Orlando Moore, and I have the distinct honor and privilege of hosting this call. Ladies and gentlemen, we get together every single week on a Monday, today, every Monday at this same time on this same line. We share some powerful information that was actually designed to inspire you, to educate you, to elevate you to the very next level inside of your PlanNet marketing business. And this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, I have the privilege of co-hosting this call with an incredible giant in this industry, a gentleman who is blazing a trail. I mean, I'm talking about building an international business. This gentleman loves to help people. He knows 100% of facts about this industry and this opportunity. This gentleman, guys, is making a ton of money. That's right. This gentleman, guys, is one of the top income earners inside of PlanNet Marketing, a founding director for the company, the very first 3-star director out of the United Kingdom. And this gentleman is not only a director, but a director maker time and over again. So without any further ado, I want y'all to help me welcome to the line, Mr. David Dacosta. Did you make it to the line with me, sir?
I'm here, Mr. Moore. Can you hear me okay?
Mr. Dacosta, you sound loud. You sound loud and clear, sir. I can hear you. How you doing this afternoon? Or this evening over there in the UK?
Yeah, it's 7 p.m. GMT time here. I'm in Southeast London at home. I've got a book in my hand, which I've just been reading. Very, very pumped up, excited, motivated for this call. We've got people all over the country here in the UK. I just heard someone from Glasgow. I know Andre Sinclair, one-star director in West London, is on the call as well. We're really excited right now, Mr. Moore, and we are really counting down towards, obviously, the most important event in our calendar, which is our convention here in London. So yes, Mr. Moore, I'm on the call. I'm excited. I'm pumped up and looking forward to sharing this information with the people around the world.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Well, Mr. Dacosta, I tell you what, man, this is a very responsible call, and I'm honored to be on the line with you to deliver this message because it's a fact that a lot of people take things for granted, or a lot of people think that they can accomplish some things. But what people really need to realize, Mr. Dacosta, in my opinion, is that there's always a price to be paid.
Yeah.
When you talk about the cost of success, the cost is the same for everybody, but the price is different. And what do I mean by that? See, the fact is, I'm a single parent. So my cost will be a little bit different than somebody who's married. Mr. Dacosta, you're a single man. Your cost might be a little bit different than someone who has a spouse, right? So guys, understand the cost of success is the same, but the price we have to pay is different. And that's different for each one of us. But here's I'll call it common denominator. This is the common denominator. All of us have to make a sacrifice. And Mr. Dacosta, I was talking to you last night via chat, and I asked you what was on your heart. And you told me that you was reading 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by Mr. John C. Maxwell, and you talked about the law of sacrifice. And I think that's ideal for us today because this is a moment in time where we got to be willing to sacrifice some things in order to get what we want. And Mr. Dacosta, I would love for you to get us kicked off talking about the law of sacrifice. Do you mind?
Yes, sir. I'm going to just read a paragraph from this book. Again, it's a phenomenal book. If you haven't got it, John C. Maxwell, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. I'm holding a copy which was given to me personally and signed, obviously, by our Commander-in-Chief, Mr. Donald Bradley. And again, I take this book with me every time I travel outside the UK. When I'm sitting on the beach, if I'm in the airport, I love reading this book. And it really is the fundamentals of many of the things that we do in our business. And if you really master this book, you will definitely put yourself ahead of the curve of everybody else. And again, I love this chapter 18, which is the law of sacrifice. And it says, a leader must give up to go up. I'm just going to read the first paragraph. And it says, why does an individual step forward to lead other people? For every person, the answer is different. A few do it to survive. Some do it to make money. Many desire to build a business or organization. Others do it because they want to change the world. That was the reason for Martin Luther King Jr. So again, this chapter is talking about what Martin Luther King had to sacrifice in order to change the world, and change the world as we know he did. So I'm not going to talk too much about his sacrifice. I mean, his sacrifice compared to my sacrifice cannot even be compared. If you know his story, you know he went through a lot to sacrifice in order to change the world. And if you want to change the world, of course you're going to have to sacrifice a big amount, because the world is a big place. Now for me, my sacrifice was much smaller, and I wanted to help impact others around me. I wanted to change people for the better, and that change had to start with me. So I knew I had to make a strong sacrifice to achieve what I've been able to achieve in this industry of network marketing. So, Mr. Moore, when I first saw this industry, I honestly had £7, or about $10, in all of my bank accounts, combined. Literally $10 or £7, whichever currency relates to you. Now, I was 28 years old, and I've been literally slaving away at my job for 9 years, and even many times sleeping on the office floor just to get work done for my boss. When my boss and all the other members were at home with their families, I was sleeping in the office. Many times I would get less than 4 hours sleep and I'd be back on the job again, waking up with no shower, just getting it done. And that's what I had to do to literally just survive. And I was literally exchanging my time for money, which wasn't even helping me in the first place. So I understood I needed to do something different. I needed to make a sacrifice. But I made a sacrifice in finding the money to get started in this industry, because I genuinely just didn't have it. And I realized I'm never going to get it unless I make a change. So more important, I really want to talk about convention, because one of the other sacrifices I made was to get to my first convention, Mr. Moore. And I want to talk on convention because, I mean, we know we've got our national convention in Las Vegas very shortly approaching, around the corner in April, which I'm sure we all cannot wait for. And we've got our first international convention in my hometown, London, England, coming up. So I think it's very fitting that when it comes to sacrifice, I talk about my personal experience that I hope people on this call, whether you're in Alabama, whether you're in Atlanta, Ohio, whether you're in Southeast London, whether you're in Scotland, I hope you can relate to what I'm talking about in terms of the sacrifice made to get to your company's convention. And I know the deadline is approaching. People are looking right now in their bank accounts, and they see the money to get registered to convention, but they may not be willing to make the sacrifice. They have other things that money could be used for. And I understand that. I understand that more than anybody, because this was my story in getting to my first convention in this industry. So, Mr. Moore, a few years ago, I was at my boss's office pleading with him to allow me to have 5 days off work so I could get to my first company convention. You see, I had already used up all of my holidays, so I had no time left to take off as holidays. So I just couldn't get to the convention. Now, there was nowhere I could go, so I had to do something I had to sacrifice something to get there. Now, I don't condone this at all, but I genuinely had to lie for my freedom. I had to make up a sob story about a loved one who was abroad, who really needed my help, who I had to go and see. That was not entirely true at all. I just wanted to get to my company convention, which was in Mexico. And I knew there was no other way I could get there if my boss didn't let me go. So again, not condoning that, but that's what I did. Now, I literally used my last penny to pay for the flight. And when I say my last penny, I mean when booking the flight, I realized I was literally £10 or $15 short. I had to borrow that money from my mother in order to just finish off the rest of the booking for the flight. So I used my last penny to get to that flight. Now, again, when I say I sacrificed my last penny and I sacrificed my job to get to this convention, what I mean is I literally sacrificed my job. Because when I got back from that convention, Mr. Moore, my boss found out, unfortunately through Facebook, I had lied about really going to see a family member who needed my help in Mexico. And what he said, he said I'd lied and I'm going to a pyramid event, which he called it, and I was fired right on the spot. So I literally sacrificed my last penny to get there, to get my ticket, to get my flight, and I sacrificed my job. But like I said, Mr. Moore, I know I needed to make a change. At the age of 28, I had been broke. I had been able to not look at family members during Christmas and birthday times and not look them in the eye because I generally couldn't afford to do anything for anybody, including myself. I knew I needed to make a change. And me sacrificing my last penny on my job to get to that convention was definitely worth it because it changed something in me. I got the fire, I got the juice, I got the knowledge, and everything I needed to become the person I am today. You see, that job I was fired from was the last job I've ever worked, Mr. Moore, and it was because of that convention. And in that convention, spending time with Mr. Donald Bradley, learning from people like yourself, Mr. Moore, what I needed to go to the next level, what I needed to sacrifice to get done, to help and show other people sacrifice to get done, which has led me to become the network marketer I am today, which has led me to help many other people from the USA to the UK and now into the Caribbean with what they want to also do. So it was a huge sacrifice, a scary sacrifice. Your last penny, so I can relate to the person looking in their bank account right now and hovering over the button of clicking convention, then hovering on, and then deciding maybe not to, maybe tomorrow, maybe not. I understand the fear of investing in risk, taking a risk on doing something that you wouldn't normally do. The sacrifice can be big for some and it can be smaller for others. But getting to your first convention, whether that is in Las Vegas or London, England, Mr. Moore, for me it genuinely changed every fibre of my being. It changed my life, and it's a sacrifice I would make over and over and over again. So I mean, that's mainly what I've got to say. I really hope that touch inspires somebody who's in the same position I was a few years back as to do I or do I not go to my convention. You see, by being around the right people, being around the people that are on the same common ground as you, the same journey, who have the same fire in their belly about PlanNet marketing, it's like being recharged but like a battery. You see, when you go out into the world and you get so much skepticism and negativity, it can drain you after a while. And when you come to your convention, when you make that sacrifice to be there, whether that includes a flight or just an expensive hotel, it's going to charge you up and give you the fire you need to go back into the world to get done what needs to be done. Back to you, Mr. Moore.
Wow. Well, David, first of all, man, again, when we talk about the law of sacrifice, you epitomize that law. The first thing it says is that a leader must give up to go up. And you just talked about the things you were willing to give up. To even maybe not be completely honest, but I see it from the standpoint, David, that you were being honest. You did go to help some people. You did have somebody you had to help, right? It may not have been a relative yet, but now you and I are brothers in this business, right?
100%.
So the fact is you were willing to give that up. You were willing to make that sacrifice. You were willing to even do what you had to do. In other words, you could have easily made excuses as to why you could not. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people look for 1,000 reasons why they can't, as opposed to looking for the one reason that they can.
Yeah.
And David, the fact is, you cannot get something you want without giving up something in return. And in order to attain something you believe is of greater value, you must give up something you believe is of lesser value. And so the things that you were willing to give up, the things that you were willing to sacrifice, it allowed you, David, to not let the very thing that you desire to not become the sacrifice. So you gave up so you can go up. And I love the fact that people see your glory, but they might not know your story. And then we could be here all day talking about stories and trade stories because there's so much that I could share as well. But to the listeners this evening, guys, we just simply telling you, you got to be willing to pay the price. There's a sacrifice to be made. What are you willing to give up so you can go up? And now it might not be, as David mentioned earlier, something as grand as what he did. When you talk about learning more, what are you willing to give up to learn more? Are you reading? David just said, I'm reading a book right now. How often are you reading to become knowledgeable? Because you are your business. So understand all the things that we're talking about. And again, especially the National Convention, David, and we're going to wrap up with this. The convention, whether you are in the UK or the US, you definitely want to be at the National Convention. And for those here in the US, tomorrow is the final day to register online for only $149. And David, I saw you and your team make the sacrifice to be at the convention in Atlanta, our very first convention.
Yeah. And
now you're going to have your very first international convention in the UK, where we're going to be coming to the UK. I mean, breaking bread, camaraderie. Just enjoying the UK together and explode that market over there. And I'm flat excited to be coming to the UK, David. My first time to be there, and on a business trip in regards to PlanNet marketing. But David, I'm looking forward to planting my flag and helping y'all grow even in the UK, because that's what this is about.
Yeah.
The sacrifice we're willing to pay. And the fact is, David, I'm going to throw it to you for closing comments. When we help enough people get what they want, we get everything we want. And the service to many is what leads to greatness. And sometimes we don't realize that our sacrifice, it's not even about us. Okay, I'm going to let that marinate for a second. David, our sacrifices oftentimes aren't even about us. Our obedience is not even about us. The sacrifice Mr. Donald Bradley made to even launch PlanNet marketing, and some people don't even know his story, but the sacrifice that he made wasn't even about him, but for each of us.
Yeah.
So, Dave, this is much bigger than just a business. And guys, be willing to make the sacrifice, pay the price, because you never know how many people you can impact. Dave, give us closing comments, sir.
That's a very important topic to finish on, Mr. Moore, because I'm going to speak specifically for the business partners here in the United Kingdom. We are about to launch something on that April morning when you're at convention on that Saturday, which has never really been done at all ever in the history of network marketing. And for you to make that sacrifice, to be there, to see what's going to be done in the travel industry here in the United Kingdom and Europe, is a sacrifice worth making. And because it is such a big deal, and we are so blessed with our partnership with IntelliTravel as to what's going to be happening, it's a sacrifice that you will kick yourself if you miss out on being in the room that day. You see, like you said, Mr. Moore, it may not even be about you. You may be thinking, well, I need to pay for this. I need to pay for that. I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy it. Maybe it's a bit expensive. Whatever your excuse is, your reason as to why that sacrifice may not be worth making, again, if you're thinking about you, you are giving somebody else who's coming behind you the opportunity to not see something of greatness. I mean, your future children, your future families, your generations are going to watch this. And really think of it like this. And I always use this analogy or this example because we understand how big the travel industry is. Now, of course, social media as an industry and the computing industry is huge. Microsoft. Had our parents invested into Microsoft early when they first heard about it, had maybe we invested into Facebook right at the beginning, where would we be today? But you see, maybe we just didn't know, or we weren't on the board to make a sacrifice to invest maybe just $100, £100 into Microsoft right at the beginning. We missed that. But you see, social media as an industry and the computing industry combined is not even half the size of the travel industry. And if you are living in the United Kingdom right now, if you're living in the USA and you have the ability to have such a powerful home-based travel business, and for us, especially in the UK, to be the first to have a fully legal and compliant home-based travel business in the world, that is a sacrifice that you should see the vision of, that you should not be scared or thinking about whatever your excuse is, because it might not even be about you. There's generations coming behind you that would love for you to have positioned yourself in something of greatness. The same way you would not be, you'll be quite mad at maybe your parents if they had an opportunity to invest into Microsoft for just $149 or £119 if they didn't invest that into Microsoft many, many years ago to be one of the pioneers of such a great company because of they needed to buy something else or they thought it was quite expensive at the time, you would find yourself not being a millionaire or billionaire today because they didn't make that sacrifice. And that sacrifice may not have been about them, it may have been about you and the future generations coming behind you. So this is a very big deal, ladies and gentlemen. I can only implore you, as Mr. Moore said, make that sacrifice. Don't just think about yourself. This is a big deal, and you can help many, many people around you that you cannot even imagine who they are right now. It's a big deal. So we're going to close with that, and I'll pass back to you, Mr. Moore. Again, thank you so much for pouring out to us here in the United Kingdom and, of course, around the world. Really, really appreciate your leadership. Thank you so much. I learned a lot today myself. I'm still writing down my notes as we speak. I can't wait to meet you in London. It's going to be a fantastic time. Like we said, we are going to break bread. We're going to have an amazing time fellowshipping together. And I'm looking forward to April. Thank you very much, Mr. Moore.
Well, Mr. David Dacosta, I appreciate you as well, sir. The feeling is definitely mutual. I'm flat excited about what's taking place inside of PlanNet marketing around the globe. And you're right. I just want to reiterate something you stated, David. This is truly a Microsoft moment. We are embarking upon something that has never been done before in this industry. I'm talking about the travel industry and in network marketing. And what's taking place in the UK is unprecedented. It's going to be an epic event. And shame on us if we sit right here and we miss out.
Yep.
So, David, I love that, and you're exactly right. And some people are going to look back, maybe it's 90 days from now, 6 months from now, or next year this time, and have that I shoulda, coulda, woulda syndrome, right? Because we all have been in the right place at the right time at some point in our lives. We just didn't realize it. So, guys, you got to hear our voice. We telling you, screaming at the top of our lungs, don't miss this one. Because right now we are removing the I shoulda, coulda, woulda syndrome. You want to look back and say, man, I didn't know. Nope, that won't be your reason. So, Mr. David Dacosta, thank you so much, my friend. I look forward to serving with you, man, again. And, guys, every Monday we have this call. We have different leaders on the call that's going to be sharing information with you to help you take your business to the next level. This has been your International Weekly Vitamin Call. I am Orlando Moore on behalf of Mr. David Dacosta and the entire PlanNet Marketing family and the leadership team, guys. We appreciate you. And we absolutely love you, and there's nothing you can do about it but love us back. Let's take this thing to the next level. Mr. Dacosta, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. See you soon.
All right.